भी प्यार से तुमको पुकारा करूं मेरे बाबा, मेरे बाबा। देखते देखते अब तो मैं भी निराकार होने लगी। ज्योति बिंदु मेरे आपके ध्यान में, देह दुनिया का मैं भान खोने लगी। देह दुनिया का मैं भान खोने लगी। आप यूं ही पधारे इस धाम में मेरे बाबा, मैं परम धाम में यूं पधारा करूं मेरे बाबा, मेरे बाबा। वारा सदा मेरे बाबा, आप पर मैं भी सर्वस्व मेरे बाबा, मेरे बाबा, मेरे बाबा, मेरे बाबा, मेरे बाबा, मेरे बाबा।
So Om Shanti and good evening to all of you. Welcome to this very special session, which we would normally always on Mondays enjoy online. And how lucky we are that we're here, we're present. And our sister Jayanti, welcome Jayanti Ben. And we would also like to welcome our online family that is listening to you as well, and Aruna Ben. So very, very welcome.
Om Shanti. Good evening. I've always been aware that the most important thing that we have to do is to ensure that we take care of our gift of the divine intellect. And yesterday's Murli clarified that in quite a bit of detail. And so Baba was happy to see the children who had received the gift of the divine intellect, and also those who have spirituality in their vision. And having expressed his happiness, Baba made us aware that it's these two gifts which are the foundation of Brahman life. That without these two gifts, there could be no transformation. And if you were to look at your past and look at yourself today, you would see how it was this transformation of the intellect that allowed you to become a Brahmin. And Baba explained how when there's spirituality in your vision, then that impacts your attitude. And we also know it's the other way around, that the attitude impacts the vision, both go together. And when my vision and my attitude change, then of course my actions also change. And usually Baba then goes on to explain that then your world, and then there's an impact on the bigger world, that also changes. And so Baba explaining how your future status depends on the extent to which you use these two gifts that you've received from God. And so using these two gifts in our thoughts, in our words, and in our actions. And there you go. If you want to be number 1, number 2, number 10, number 120, it all depends on just this, the way you use your divine intellect. And then Baba also went on to explain how the very first thing that happens is you're using your divine intellect, this special gift from Baba, to be able to see yourself, to know yourself, to be able to know God, and to be able to know your family, other Brahmins, and those in relationship and connection with you. But it was fascinating to see how Baba differentiated all those things. And in the first case, to the extent that you recognize Baba, and you recognize not only who he is, but also what he has come to give you, to that extent you're able to take, and Baba gives permission to everyone, take as much as you want, but it depends on my own divine intellect as to how much I recognize and how much I take from Baba, and that also then determines my number. And then the second thing, again it was interesting, how well do I know myself? And so the first aspect of the use of the divine intellect is this ability to discern. And in terms of recognizing who I am, Baba's not talking about position or possessions or any external titles on any level at all. Baba's talking about, do you recognize yourself in what it is Baba has given you in terms of the virtues? Because these are your own original qualities. Brahman life means a life filled with virtues. And so do you recognize those virtues? And do you recognize what it is you have been made an instrument for? And then that recognition is going to enable you to move forward. And in terms of the Brahmin family, again, very interesting. Do you recognize their specialities and their qualities? And of course, what happens is that when we don't recognize each other's specialities and qualities, then there's bound to be a little bit of irritation, a little bit of hot air, and whatever else. But the first lesson or the first recognition for the intellect is to be able to see what are the specialities of each one of Baba's child. And if I can do that, then I move forward myself, but I enable them to move forward also. And so it was a short paragraph, but fascinating how Baba took it up. And then, of course, Baba was explaining, well, what you have to do to keep the intellect clean. Because you've received this precious gift. Now, if it's getting dusty, then it's not God who's going to come and remove the dust. You've been given the gift, now it's yours, it belongs to you, and so it's up to you to keep it clean and sparkling. And so Baba's saying that a divine intellect also means an intellect which is like a swan. And it's legend, it's not physical fact, but the legend goes that the swan is able to discern between the pearls and the stones. It's able to discern between the milk and the water. And so is my intellect like that? Am I able to differentiate? Am I able to understand the difference? And then Baba was saying how in bhakti they always show Saraswati on a swan. And this is the reason why. Because in Sangam Yuga, the soul that's able to keep the intellect divine and clean is one who becomes the embodiment of knowledge, the embodiment of wisdom. And so Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, but Baba saying is a symbol for all of us. And Baba remembered the brothers and the sisters. And so for the brothers, Baba saying that you become the Lord of wisdom. And for the sisters, becoming the goddesses of wisdom, of knowledge. And so they always show every deity, every god, goddess on a vehicle. Hanuman flies anyway, but like Ganesh always shown on a little mouse. And so the one who conquered all the senses, but Saraswati on the swan, the symbol of purity and cleanliness and the divine intellect. And so Baba was saying that the intellect is your vehicle. What you do in Amrit Vela, you're able to travel through all the three worlds, and you do this with the power of the intellect. And so the power of the intellect is incredible. And in science also, Baba saying that, well, it's their intellect that's made so much that seemed impossible at one time become possible. And of course, think about all the things you've seen within your lifetime in terms of developments in science and technology. And Baba knows it all, of course. And so Baba knows that there has been all of this, and it's become amazing. But yet, of course, their intellect is very much a worldly intellect, because they're exploring matter, prakriti, they're exploring the physical dimension, and yet they've been able to achieve so much. And if you keep your intellect pure and clean and divine, what is it that you're not able to achieve? And so truly, the impossible can be made possible with the power of the clean intellect. And a whole list of things that Baba then went on to mention about the result of having a divine intellect. And so you become the master almighty authority, you become the one who's able to know God, you're able to have the experience of meeting God, you're able to have the experience of all attainments from God, you're able to make impossible into possible, you're even able to become absolutely the one who conquers Maya and who makes Maya experience defeat, just with the power of the divine intellect. And then even further, Baba saying that it's not even that Maya will attack you or wage war on you, but when Maya sees the power of your intellect and the intellect that's connected with God and is able to draw power from God, Baba called it catching power, catching Baba's power, catching Baba's love. And when Maya sees that you have this ability to connect with God, then Maya won't even come anywhere near you. She won't touch you, but rather she'll surrender to you. She'll become the garland around your neck. And so Baba reminding us of the stories of bhakti in the Copper Age, and how the stories go that the rishis and munis had such power that even a lion coming in front of them would become tame, and he would become like a toy, or he would become their vehicle. They could ride the lion. So all these images and ideas of bhakti also. But it's actually because you children at this time have been able to have such power that you've transformed Maya. And so what is all this? All this is using the right method to be able to achieve results, success. And Baba said it's nothing magical. Siddhi, normally you would say it's the occult powers or it's magic. But here Baba's saying, and Baba's taken the subject up sometimes in the Avyakt Murlis, Vidhi, the right method, and the Siddhi, the results. And so you have all success right in the palm of your hand. All you have to do is keep the divine intellect clean and connected with God, and everything can happen so easily, so naturally. No labor, no effort, all success is guaranteed. And it's a Murli from March 1990. And so it must have been a mixture of Bharatvasis and Baba's children from abroad at that time. And so Baba was speaking to the teachers in particular and asking them if they experienced these amazing results and this success at all times. And Baba said, but you do so much service through words, but how much can you do? 2 hours, 4 hours, and you're going to get exhausted at the end of that. But there's another service that you have to do, and that is through your features, show them the form of the angel of the future. And very simple definition of what the features of an angel are like. Your features show your happiness, your features show your peace, and your features show the joy. Baba used both these words, happiness and joy. And so one is where internally I'm happy and it's quiet and it's sitting inside of me and I feel content. But it's not necessarily so that it's instantly visible. But when there's joy, that shows on your face immediately. And so that's a sparkle that's visible. And Baba talking about the sparkle of the angel. And Baba saying that your features should be such that you're serving for 12 hours a day. In fact, earlier Baba had said that a teacher is one who's constantly serving through thoughts, words, and actions. That's a teacher. So Baba's definitions are very, very high. They set the standards up there, which is good. It reminds us of what Baba wants for us. And so that stage of having such a sparkle that even somebody who comes in front of you and they're unhappy, they're distressed, but your face is able to give them a vision of how their future can be also. And so let them have a vision of that through your features. and that form of the angel is what can give them that hope for the future, that their future can be a bright future. And then Baba, having chit-chat with them, Avyakt Baba always engages with the gathering, and Baba asking them, have you attained success over Maya? Or is it that sometimes Maya is the garland around your neck and has been defeated? Or is it that sometimes you forget this and then you're facing the problems of Maya? And Baba remembered the story of the queen. The queen was wearing her necklace, but she forgot it was there. And so she was looking for it outside. And Baba's comment, are you looking for success outside? Success is the garland around your neck. And success is what you feel when you've been able to defeat Maya and be able to move forward. And you can feel that, and you can feel your inner happiness growing. But if you're looking for success outside, that is big Maya. And so, yes, it's going to then attack you and make war on you. And so, a lot to reflect on from several sentences that Baba was mentioning, like that first one that really struck me. Do you recognize who you are in terms of the instrument that Baba has made you and what he's made you an instrument for? Or have you not recognized it, or do you sometimes forget it? So sometimes very powerful sentences. So don't look for success outside. It'll create a lot of Maya. But know that success is the garland around your neck. You have success as a guarantee from Baba anyway. And then Baba again went on to talk about the situation that everybody was in at that time, March 1990, and there'd been a gap between the Murlis in January, and then February it had been the conferences and the retreats. We'd stopped bringing guests to the conferences, but we decided that we'd bring them to retreats instead. And so Baba, of course, praising everybody, the Bharatvasis and the double foreigners. The conference went so well, people are more and more ready to hear, to listen. And yes, the numbers are going to grow because of the word that's going to spread around, that this is something good that people need to give attention to. When people carry away something good, they're going to talk about it and the numbers will grow. That's a guarantee. And for the double foreigners, of course, we'd been through that patch of million minutes when it wasn't so visible that it was the Brahma Kumaris who were doing it. We had a whole range of patrons and committees and other things. But now with global cooperation, Baba had told us, make it straight Brahma Kumaris, so that then it's very clear. And so Baba was saying that, well, that's good. The curtain has been pulled apart and now it's visible, you're not hidden anymore. And the people who came on the retreat really wanted to come, even though they knew they were coming to the Brahma Kumaris, they wanted to come. And so a new chapter had begun in terms of public service. And so Baba was happy with that, and of course praising all the people who were around, the Sevadharis, the Madhuban Nivasis, the ones who'd come from other centers to help, and the tireless service that they were all doing. So Baba giving wonderful, wonderful praise to everyone. But it also connected very much with what Baba said later, and that was further on when Baba was talking to groups, and I'm not sure that I'd understood it when I actually heard it, but now it was very clear. Because what Baba was saying is that Brahma Baba always put children in front. And so what are you doing? Are the older ones putting the younger ones in front? And I remembered when I read that there was this situation where those who'd come in the 70s were by then quite mature in Gyan. By then it's 1990. And so they were already in Gyan about 20 years. And then there was, of course, constantly new ones coming. But especially around the mid-80s, there's a whole batch of new ones that came, generally everywhere in the world. And Charlie and Maureen remember those days, and we were service companions then and still are companions today. So it was a time when some of the older ones were reacting to this, that the newer ones were coming in front. Well, they were the ones who had those ideas, and they were the ones who were putting in the time and energy and effort. So it wasn't a selection from anyone, but it was a pre-selection by drama, in a sense that it happened in that way. But Baba reminding us that Baba kept the new ones in front, the young ones in front. And then further down, again Baba saying that parents always give extra attention to the youngest ones. And so whatever is your right and whatever you have taken from Baba, nothing can take that away. That is your right, and you have that. But yes, the younger ones are going to be given attention, and they are doing well, and they are moving forward. So, as I say, I'm not sure that I totally grasp the context in which Baba said all this. But today when I read Avyakt Murlis and I'm remembering the context and the background, and of course with hindsight it's much easier to know all this, it's fascinating how Baba knows absolutely everything and is explaining things to us that we need to understand, but I'll speak for myself. Intellect is a bit slow in understanding what Baba is really saying to us. So that was fascinating for me. But yes, Baba, very happy with the service that was happening all around, everywhere in Bharat and the world out there. And Baba reminding us that, yes, this is going to happen, expansion will take place, and Baba's message will be spread around everywhere. But on the other side, you have to make sure that your stage is such that there's absolutely no upheaval, no matter what may happen. And again, a sentence that really explained it very powerfully to me. Of course, when there's questions, then there's upheaval. When there's the why, who, what, if, but, well, that's the churning that I'm going through, so what's the upheaval? That's what's happening in my mind. No matter what's happening out there, it's happening inside. But I have to learn to put a full stop. But Baba's comment, only when you have a stock of all the powers within are you going to be able to put a full stop. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to put a full stop. And so put that full stop. And as we know, after Shivratri comes Holi, and so the celebration for Holi, and Baba saying, well, you're colored with God's love and God's Gyan, so you don't need to play around with the other colors. And so again, a very gentle reminder of keeping to the spiritual systems rather than getting into the external systems of throwing colored water. And also just the colors, the powders. So Baba saying, you're colored already, and anyway, they don't play with these things out there. Oh, and yes, Baba remembered the double foreigners in another situation, where Baba said that when you have this awareness that success is the garland around your neck, it's your birthright, and you've defeated Maya to the extent that she's garlanding you, are you able to maintain that? Or is it that something comes to distract you? And Baba commenting that Baba's children abroad love having pets, dogs and cats, and the toys they bring for Baba. People would bring, those fluffy toys, and sometimes it would be cats and dogs and monkeys and teddy bears and all sorts of things. And we'd give these gifts to Baba at Shivratri, and it was an opportunity to keep it on the table and take extra drishti from Baba at that time. But the point is that when you let a dog or a cat come in here, something that's a distraction, it takes time and energy to send it out again. And so make sure that the dogs and cats stay out there and you don't give them space inside in here. And then you'll remember your stage of victory and success is your birthright then. So again, with the colouring, Papa mentioned Mickey Mouse. And if you've seen some photographs, or maybe you've even seen it in real life, but when they smear your face with all the different coloured powders, it's a real cartoon. And so whenever Baba's talking about cartoon images, Baba always uses this term Mickey Mouse. So Baba doesn't talk about all the other cartoon characters, Donald Duck and this one and that one, but certainly Mickey Mouse gets an honourable mention quite frequently with Avyakt Baba. So the story of the divine intellect, just realize how powerful it is and what an amazing gift it is from Baba. And usually when we have Murli revision on a Monday online, then we have Q&A after that. And so I'm going to invite Sister Moira.
Thank you. Om Shanti. And first of all, Jayanti, I just wonder how you can remember the Murli word by word, point by point. I always, every Monday when we listen to you, we just think, how does she do it? I remember Daddy Ji once said, I read the Murli because I have to read the Murli, but I could speak the Murli, and I would say the same for you. Do you agree? It's just amazing. It really is. So here's my first question to you is, now that we are here in Madhuban and we have a beautiful program, we're so happy to be together, but different from the past, we have free mornings. So, what do free mornings mean at this time? Is it time for shopping, entertainment, resting? What is it? And so, how does laziness and carelessness creep in the intellect, and how does it impact our stage? Are we making the right choice? Are we using time in the right way? So how do we journey back to our self-respect when we have become rather lazy or careless?
I think being in Madhuban is a fantastic injection to renew that enthusiasm for effort, personal effort. And actually there was another sentence that Baba mentioned. Baba mentioned that effort is just natural attention. And so again, it was a very powerful and very lovely definition. Effort is natural attention. And so I remember when we first come to Baba, when I first came to Baba, soul consciousness was something I was just constantly aware of and reminding myself of that. And then your intellect gets engaged with people and sanskars and service and cats and dogs and and so you don't have that same focus and attention. But I think partly because of the conditions of the world out there, I think we're all more alert and aware. And being in Madhuban and being with a small gathering in Madhuban really feels very intimate and powerful. And so nobody has to raise their hands to tell me anything, but my hope is that you were able to use your free morning, A, for some extra yoga, and B, for some reflection time, and C, study. And you juggled around with these three things, hopefully. And the more I study the Murli with that attention and focus, the more powerful is the impact on the soul. Online, you were hearing Murlis when you couldn't go to the centers, and maybe you sat down in the most comfortable chair that you had and had a cup of tea and you enjoyed listening to the Murli. And then when lockdown finished, what happened? Did you think at that time, I need to go back to the center, there's something missing here? Or did you think, well, this is much easier, much more comfortable, I'm going to carry on like this? And we found in London at least 80% of the people wanted to come back. I have to say, probably there's a 20% who come now and then, and who used to come every day, but certainly 80% are now back, not in a comfortable armchair, but in the chair in the auditorium or in the seminar room or wherever, and they're there because of the atmosphere. And so again here, being in Madhuban, I think the atmosphere that has been created through years and years and years is such that I think it's a trigger for really just checking and changing and making that inner effort become very natural. And so yes, it's very easy to get careless and lazy, especially on the inner level. Carelessness externally, where because I'm not having to travel to go to the center, I have an extra half hour to snooze. Well, that can also happen, of course. But the big danger is where the intellect thinks, well, I've understood Gyan, I've been hearing Murlis for a long time, and there isn't that appreciation of the daily cleanup that the Murli provides. And so through the day before, whether I'm on godly service or whether I'm in my Lokik home or at work, wherever it is I am, we get involved in all the mundane day-to-day things. And then that's bringing the intellect from up there to here. And if it's here, it's very easy to slip down. And so Baba's Murli is again the reminder to come up again. And so especially listening to the Murli with attention in Madhuban is magical, because it touches your heart. You have that space to give it that full attention and focus, and so really absorb the Murli deeply, and that will definitely shake you out of that comfort zone in which maybe the soul had fallen.
Yeah, so interesting. Thank you, Jayanti. Baba is the intellect of the wise, and Daddy was a self-sovereign. What special efforts did you see Daddy doing to make her intellect so powerful, and how did she care for her gift?
The first lesson that Baba gave her was, you have to read the Murli at least 12 times, and that was in response to her question.
Wow.
Why did I come late? How can I now make up for lost time? And that was just 18 months. And we came, how much later? Decades and decades and decades. But Daddy then took that instruction to heart, and she didn't just read it 10 times, but she read it 21 times. For 6 months, she didn't sleep in her bed. She put her arms down on the desk and put her head on her arms and just rested for 20 minutes anytime she really felt she needed to.
Wow.
And so that was a period of 6 months, and so that made her intellect powerful right to begin with. Wow. And this is why then when in the days of Karachi, they weren't supposed to be meeting as a community. So Baba was in his own family home, and the sisters were in another home, the mothers were in another home, and they were supposed to take it in turns to go whenever there was a Murli being spoken. And they would know that it's happening here, or Om Navas, or Kunj Bhavan, wherever, and off they'd go. And usually in the mother's Bhavan, where Dadi was put, she had a chance to go every fourth time, because 4 of them would go in the car. And when the other mothers noticed that every time Dadi went, she came back with a lot of treasures to share with all of them. And so they then decided that whoever would be the other 3 who would go with her, she would definitely have a place, because she would bring back treasures for everyone. And so that was an opportunity for her to be churning and sharing. And so she's created that sort of opportunity for herself, just simply to be able to churn and share. But it wasn't a practice that was happening on a daily basis. And then when she was in Amritsar in the early 50s, when Baba came along to visit, Baba said to her one morning, she went to Baba, and Baba said to her one morning before class, Janak, do you churn? And she lowered her eyes. She didn't want to say no, but Baba understood. And so Baba said to her, you know, you've got a big big head. I don't mean an ego, but, you know, a lot of space. And so use that, fill it with all the treasures. And she took that as a blessing.
Huh.
And so after that, she would churn every morning. And so I remember from the days in the 60s, I don't remember the 50s, but that was different. But in the 60s, whenever I'd visit India, there would always be class from Dadi and then the Murli. And the little classes that she was giving were being transcribed way back in the 60s from 61. And they would come to Rajniben. And I'd be interested to hear those because they were very easy to understand. I didn't get the full extent of them, but it was much easier to understand than the Murli. And so I grew up with Dadi's classes.
Wow. Thank you. Beautiful. So beautiful. Baba was talking about the power of discernment of the divine intellect and comparing it with a swan. So how do we discern the subtle forms of manmat and parmat that blur the intellect when we think that we are following Srimad, but deep down we're not?
Difficult, which is why we do get stuck in terms of our own effort. And especially with manmat, the instructions of my own mind, the feeling at that moment is that, but I know this is how it should be. I know this is right. And it has to be like this. There isn't another way. And of course, there is another way, but Baba's talking about a level here. And I'm looking at a level here. And so I'm saying that there isn't another way. This is the way. I know. But when I begin to recognize the mistakes I've made through manmat, and I acknowledge that, and usually it's because manmat has led to some suffering, some pain, some sorrow, and as a result of that pain or sorrow, then I realize that these are the mistakes I've made because I was following my own instructions rather than Baba's instructions. And again, the whole thing about the influence of human beings, we think this is just friendship, this is just company, and we're just having a good time. But if I'm having a good time with somebody, did that good time bring me closer to Baba? Did it bring them closer to Baba? And if it didn't, well, what is my definition of having a good time? And so if we haven't been able to support each other to come closer to Baba, then the influence is going to be the human influence. And you can hear human influence in terms of language. You know, people start using the same type of words that they're impressed by from another person. And so you hear it in their ideas. They start speaking, and you feel, well, it isn't this person speaking, but it's that person speaking, because they've been influenced so strongly by them. And again, it's only, I think, if you were to say anything to them at that moment, there would be denial. No, of course not. It's not like that. But of course, it's different to Srimad and that highest instruction and what humans are saying. And again, probably it takes pain and sorrow to come to that realization that this influence actually caused me a lot of sorrow and made me make mistakes. And then, of course, I have to learn my lessons and move on, and again, make sure that the connection with Baba is strong.
Wow. Thank you, Jayanti. That was very deep and valuable. Gentlemen, you are a most trustworthy instrument of Baba, and we from all around the world consult you on yagya, service, very, very personal things that are crucial to our progress, on our journey for Baba's service. And what you tell us touch our lives and determine a way forward. So what attention do you keep on your intellect to keep it so in tune, so connected, that Baba can use you in such a way?
At one point, Baba had said to me that you're not only following in Baba's footsteps, you're following in Janak's footsteps. And then he said, just like Janak sets aside everything else and gives her intellect and focuses on service so that Baba can use it in the way that he wants, you're learning to do the same thing. So when Baba said this to me, I realized that Baba was actually teaching me something. And it was this: whatever other things are going on, sanskars are happening, my sanskars, somebody else's sanskars, but when it comes to service, setting aside absolutely everything and just to that moment focusing on Baba and service. And so that realization helped me hugely. And so I saw that even though I was making mistakes, but yet still the door of opportunity of service continued to stay open. And so that gave me that possibility of learning and moving forward. And you learn from experience. I never expected Sangam Yug to be so long. And I don't know how much longer it's going to be. Some people think it's now going to be very short, but I'm not sure. But it's meant that I've had a chance to learn from mistakes. And you know how Baba sometimes says experience is the greatest gift that you can have and is the greatest authority that you can have. So I think my learning has come not just from the Murlis, but also from my mistakes. And so today, if somebody asks me about this thing, that thing, and the other thing, very often it will be from my own experience that I tell them. Wow. Not just that Baba says X, Y, Z, but I know that this is what happens, and this is why Baba has told us this and this and this. So a lot of the learning has been through that experience, but also I love the Murli. I enjoy finding little nuggets in the Murli in which Baba is putting things a little bit differently. Baba's giving us a different angle on it, a different perspective on it. And so when I pick up those things from the Murli, like, this particular Murli, I was highlighting some of the things that really struck me, and especially this last one. You can only put a full stop if you have a stock of the powers within you, which is absolutely a fact. People have often said to me, how can I put a full stop? And today's Murli gave me this Murli gave me a very, very clear answer, that you need to be introvert, you need to be tolerant, you need to have the ability to merge, all of this. And so it doesn't happen that something is going on and I say, okay, I'm going to put a full stop. That's artificial. Something is going to come jumping up at you again. But if over time you've been taking from Baba, filling yourself with the different powers that Baba gives, then as a result of that, yes, then you can, okay, enough, full stop, finish.
Wow. The Rabbi used to say that his hands would shake when he received letters from Bab Dada, handwritten with red pencil. We don't get those letters, but we get your letters. And I'm sure that you have that feeling of how valuable, maybe it's 2 lines, 3 lines, how valuable they are to us. So thank you. I just want to share a little. When we were in Iceland for the Spirit of Humanity Forum, we went back from the forum to Thor's place. There was a very short time to rest, and I went to rest. But Jayanti, you went to sit with your phone, and you were reading all your messages, listening to all the messages, and then texting back. And I asked you, isn't it easier for you to just send a message back? And the answer you gave me, you said, well, if I speak, I might speak too much or extra words. But if I text, I can choose every single word, because everything that I write will touch the life of someone. And I thought that was so precious, so accurate, so divine, really. And I know how much time you give of yourself to do that. So thank you on behalf of everyone. No? And another question I have is, what vision do you hold of yourself, and how does that impact your attitude towards others? Do you also see the future of souls like Daddy used to see?
No, I don't see the future. But yes, the Dadis and of course Baba had this amazing insight into the future of souls and would trust them in that way. What I always remember is my amazing fortune of having known all the Dadis and Mama and Baba, and I'm meeting people, especially when I was downstairs and I was meeting some of the groups that were coming through, and they haven't even had a meeting with Baba in terms of Baba actually coming. And so again, I'm just reminded of my incredible fortune. And I think that because I have taken so much, I feel that I owe it to Baba and the Dadis to be able to give others that return. So what return can I give Baba? But I know that others haven't had that same experience. And so really to be able to give of myself and share those experiences is... I was thinking about it just today. Why is it that there's such a recording filled in the soul of all these memories of all the Dadis? And you hear the same thing literally on a tape recorder or on a video, but yet when you hear it from somebody, it's a little bit different. And so it really is as if there's a huge recording that's there just of Sangam Yug. never mind the recording of 84 births, but just the recording of Sangam Yuga and all those experiences. And so when you say vision, then that's something else maybe, but the way I see myself is that I've had this amazing fortune and it has to be shared.
Thank you. Jayanti, what are the main qualities Baba sees in your intellect that he uses the most, that has brought you all the way here, and also in the yagya today? Do you see yourself the way he sees you?
Any time when there were challenges and I hadn't yet learned to rise above the challenges, then what would keep me going is that, well, if Baba's put me in this position, it's because he knows I can deal with it. And so can I move my consciousness to that stage up above that Baba sees me and I have to now see myself with that. So it's been the reminder to the self of how Baba sees me that's helped me hugely, hugely through all these years and years. And so I think what Baba sees in me is faith, that whatever else has happened, my faith hasn't shaken.
Wow.
And I think that most of you would also probably say the same. I think you would. I know many of you personally. And your faith is what has carried you through everything. But I think it's that power of faith, and there's that statement from the Gita that Baba sometimes picks up on, that faith in the intellect leads to victory. And so even if there are mistakes, even if there are opportunities that came that weren't fully appreciated, but so long as there's been faith, the victory is fixed.
Wow.
So I think that Baba sees that faith.
And surely courage. I have a last question, and this is about putting others in front. When we see the current times of the yagya and the emergence of a young generation that is willing and prepared to take responsibility, and putting others in front could, for some, mean some form of insecurity, that they might not be, they might be left aside or may not be used further, and especially with a technology and a gap that could be created there. So what should be kept in mind? What awareness should we have not to feel threatened, to allow souls to blossom, to grow, and to allow I would say, the line of succession to happen? As much as the daddies had so much faith and invested so much in all of you and prepared you, and you did likewise with all of us. And I was one of the 80s when not so many new ones appeared, but now there's such a beautiful bouquet of young instruments that need that space and encouragement. So if someone feels unsafe, allowing or putting others in front, what would you advise that they could cultivate to feel?
It's actually from this very Murli.
Yes, this is
because Baba actually said that to the group at that time, which is relevant today and your question now. Just remember what you have taken from Baba already. And nobody can take that away from you. And so no matter how many brilliant young ones come, the opportunities that the older ones have had with the daddies, it's not possible to wind the clock back. Some say to me that, I lived in London and I was so close, and I've only now come to Baba. I didn't realize that Daddy was here all these years. I wish. But drama, what can you do? There's nothing you can do to help them in that sense. Yes, you can share your experiences, you can encourage them, you can point them to the right Murlis and all of that, but nobody can take away what you have had from Baba. And so that's a very, very secure feeling that one can have, that those treasures are my treasures, but yes, if I share those treasures, I'm going to benefit. My treasure store will grow. But also, Baba's statement in this Murli, when you're helping someone else move forward, you're actually moving forward yourself. It might not look like it, but that's the reality. You are greater, and Baba's put you there to be greater, but give others that opportunity and those blessings will come to you.
Beautiful. Okay, our time's over. So gentlemen, thank you very, very much. And thank you all. So I think that we continue with yoga until 7:30.
Thank you for the questions.
Thank you.
वक्त जैसे